with the union as well, and make sure the same level of scrutiny happens with these. We want the best people for the job, and that's what I hope to run with the UST. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
I have a lot of experience working in elections. I've been in this university for 4 years now. I've participated in elections every single year, campaigning for different candidates. I was a member of the elections committee last year, basically running the elections, being here, working with Tracy and the other elections committee members. We looked at the regulations, we toughened them up, so it makes it much more difficult for students to cheat and mess about, basically. I've also, in the past, as part of college, as my sixth form, I was a member of student council. I ran the elections there, helped to develop them. I've been a member of the management committee for a local youth charity, so I've been working with them to interview other people for the management committee. I interviewed the head teacher in my secondary school for the job, so I've got a lot of experience working with staff members, working as part of committees, working in different boards. So I'm not shy being direct with staff members, because I think as part of this job, you need to be direct, get your voices heard, and make sure they listen, so I will do that. Thank you very much.
And Sam, please.
I have a bit of history with elections. I've been a candidate. Last year I ran for a BME officer. I've ran for SF secretary. In terms of interviews, last year we held, in Red Ribbon we do interviews, which is actually unique for some societies. We thought, what's the best way to make sure we have the best candidates, not just the popular candidates? So I ensured that that system and that way that election is done was done for a fair election, for a fair interview system, and we're looking to implement that with a lot more of our societies. You know, there are 105, so we're trying to see what works best for what societies. Thank you.
Okay, the next question for candidates for the position of Union Secretary-Treasurer. What strategies do you intend to implement to encourage greater participation of the student body in the Union? I'll repeat that again because that's a long question. What strategies do you intend to implement to encourage greater participation of the student body in the Union? And Usman, if you could tackle that one firstly, please.
Hi guys, I think it needs to start before students get to university, so we need to access the local schools and colleges. We need to go and help them to run elections, raise the profile of Bradford University so that when they get here, they will participate in the union, they know what's going on. Secondly, as soon as we have the freshers tours, we need to bring them down to the union to meet the sabbatical team so that they know what the union is there for, because year on year during campaigning, I've come across students who don't even know what the student union is, they don't even know what the sabbatical team do, they don't even know that they represent them. So I would start right at the start before students come here. Secondly, the students that are on campus, we need to get videos out, we need to go to lectures at the beginning of the year, introduce them to the union, tell them why they should stand, to develop their CV, to build confidence, you know, just to boost their all-round well-being. We need to go and get them signed up. If they want, the sabbatical officers can go there and explain to them what they do as their jobs. So basically I'll do everything that I can do to go and get as many students involved as I can. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Sam, please.
One of the things I believe in is not just a raw number of people participating. The main thing is engagement. One of the things I'm going to do is going around, because we have a main campus, but we also have a School of Health and a School of Management. So I'll try to ensure that there's a lot more union representation, especially at the School of Management, but also at School of Health, to students who don't know what it is. From going around speaking to students what they want, when I say find me at the union or the union desk, maybe half, more than half, don't know where it is. They can't name their own sabbatical officers. I think that's appalling. So from day one, it's about getting out to the students. It's literally, during Freshers Week, go around the halls, say hi to them. Go to the atrium during the lunch times and see what people are saying. I think it's really is about engagement rather than just making sure people turn up and being there in numbers.
And Richard, please.
Well, I think that the sabbatical officers should be known. They should be there on the very first day, not only around Freshers' Fair, but they should be especially around the green. The freshers are going to come in, they're going to see people, and they need to know who we are and where to turn to if something's gone wrong. But also, to increase the participation, we basically need to bring something lively that will attract freshers, that will attract new and exciting minds. My aim would possibly to bring in projects, to bring in something that might interest someone, possibly from a corporate perspective, so someone from the School of Management or someone from Peace Studies who can come in and do a day with someone who is especially designed to do peace studies. That's what I think anyway. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Those were answers to that question. The next question for candidates for Union Secretary Treasurer is, why did the lights seem to have gone down? No, that's not the question. What professional or personal qualities do you possess which will make you an ideal candidate for the position? What professional or personal qualities do you possess which will make you an ideal candidate for the position? And Sam, if you could tackle that one firstly, please.
Personal qualities, I'm a good team player. Like anyone that is currently in executive society and my fellow society execs will know that when it comes to working together, I'm always there, helping anyone that needs help, going the extra mile, being proactive. I think that's important. I have good leadership skills, and like I said earlier, if I have to ask you a question, you're going to give me an answer. You're elected just like I am. Well, obviously not you guys, but any other SABs, anyone that's in that office is directly accountable to students. Any questions that I ask that I feel is a fair question, they need to have an answer, because that's essentially students. They don't have direct access. They'll be there to ask. Those are the main things. Like, I work well in the team because it is a team of 6 SABs, and if they're not all working together, as in previous years that has been seen, then actually the reputation of the whole union goes down. So it's mainly about working well in a team with people you may not necessarily know that well, but people you'll get to know from the start of the year.
Okay, thank you. Just remind everybody, by the time we've taken the answers for the next 2 answers to this question, questions will be closed, so please get those in swiftly if you can, in Student Central or on RAME. Richard, could you answer that question next, please?
I think I possess quite a few qualities for the UST role. I have worked in a team for the past 4 to 6 years, especially being in school. I've worked on student council, but also being a part of a team is a lot, especially for this. The union is massive. Not one person can do this on their own. So it basically means that every clog needs to work together, and every clog needs to work as a well-oiled machine. Sorry. Another thing is I'm very ruthless. When it comes to a position where someone isn't delivering, I can be very ruthless. We need people to do what they're saying they're going to do. Otherwise, this union isn't going to go forward. And I want this union to be better than what it is this time next year. I want it to be 10 times better than what it is in 2 years. And that's my aim, and that's what I plan to do. Thank you, guys.
And Usman, please.
Hi guys, well initially I'd say I'm confident, I'm a team worker and I'm creative. To plan the first ever academic delegation to Gaza, as well as fundraising within 13 weeks last year, took an awful lot, and we had to be really creative in the way we sourced our funding, in the way we approached students to support us in that campaign. I think teamwork is essential, but the Union Secretary-Treasurer needs to be a really good leader and needs to be strict. We have a lot of policies within the union for sabbatical officers ensuring that they do the work they're supposed to do, and I think the Union Secretary-Treasurer needs to toe the line if they're not doing that job. They're getting paid, you know, through you guys are getting paid a hell of a lot of money, and if they're not being effective in their job, then they need to go through the normal procedures. It is a professional job, so if that means dismissing them, then we need to do that, and I'm happy to do that. I'll tell you right now, I'll get rid of them. So I'm a hard worker. I've worked with a lot of teams before. I've got a lot of experience in different things, and I believe I'm quite approachable. But the biggest thing is,
okay, thank you. That was your 1 minute. Thank you. Right, the next question is: what do you think is more important, the Constitution or the budget? Richard, you're up first.
I don't really believe that you can actually put a target on which one's better, because at the end of the day, they've both got to work together. The Constitution has to set out the rules and the guidance for the whole year, but the budget, granted, the budget's the one that includes the students. So to really put a target on it, I possibly would say the budget, but I wouldn't like to put it down to it, because they have to work together, they have to be key, and one can't go without the other. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
I'd say exactly what Richard just said. Basically, I think they both work together. The Constitution provides the rules and regulations that the union needs to abide by. Without the finance, we can't do half of what we need to do, engaging students, providing the activities, providing you guys with the experience that you need. So I don't think it's one over the other. However, saying that, I think the Constitution is extremely important. We need to ensure that it's protected, ensure that everything that's in there is ratified by Council, as is legislated by the Constitution. And in terms of the finances, we need to make sure that the university is increasing the subvention that we receive so we can do more more activities, we can engage more students, we can utilize the resources that we have and work collaboratively with different societies, different areas within the union to do a brilliant job and make sure your voices are heard. So please vote for me and I'll do my best to do that. Jazakallah.
And Sam.
The question's about budget or constitution. However, the role is a secretary-treasurer. It's a double-barreled role. So how would one be more important than the other? I believe they're both as important than the other. I don't know how many of you know, but when you're elected as SAB, you're actually here over the summer from essentially the 1st of July, and you're mandated to do about 38.5 hours a week, which is roughly about 8 hours a day. There is more than enough time to put effort into both the budget and the constitution. You can't say one is more important than the other if the role is a double-barreled role. So I wouldn't pick one. They're both as important as each other, the secretarial and the treasury role.
Okay, the next question for candidates for UST is, what do you believe is the most important aspect of your role, and which would you deal with first? And Usman, you're first to tackle that one.
I think in the current climate, managing the finances of the union, ensuring they're being used effectively is key to the role of the Union Secretary-Treasurer. But I think with that comes managing the team of the sabbatical officers, because a lot of the time they're spending a lot of money when they're not bringing any ideas or campaigns back to the students. So we need to ensure that any money that they're spending on training means that they're going to do more activities back in the union. They're going to provide those skills, transfer them to the students. So I would focus a lot on finances this year, but at the same time, I'm going to ensure that I work with the team, ensure I tell them that it's a professional job and they need to be professional, and provide them with the training necessary to do their job. But I will focus on finances because of the economic climate and try and come up with as many creative schemes as possible to make sure the money goes a long way. Thank you very much.
And Sam, please.
I feel one of the most important parts of this union is a union of students. It's in the name, University of Bradford Union of Students. I'll be concentrating on the students, participation, engagement. How are we going to let people know during Freshers Week where the desk is? It's something so simple. You all know because you're here, but if we have X thousand students, they should all know where the desk is. They should all know who their elected sabbatical officers are. And at the end of the day, you are directly, as a SAB, you're directly accountable to the students first and foremost. Before any financial or any constitutional issues, the students are what is most important to you as an elected SAB.
And Richard, please.
I'd make sure this is a union, so it's for everyone. So I'd make sure there is absolutely everyone knows what's going on, and make sure everyone knows that it is a union of students. So we need to know that people are here, people are together, and people are working. But this doesn't come on its own. It does actually come with the budgets. We need to stress that this is a charity in the end. So it needs to keep going. It needs to keep running. So we need to make sure the budgets are still up to date and still fine. And without that, we wouldn't really have all the nice things we had. Thank you.
Okay, the next question for the candidates is there anything that the current Union Secretary-Treasurer has done that you would like to improve or change? And Sam, you're up first for that one, please.
Where is he? The current Union Secretary-Treasurer, one of the things he'll be the first to tell you about, is increasing numbers in elections and general meetings. He's hit quorums meeting after meeting. However, the question is, are they actually engaged? It's not just about bribing sports and society to turn up and say, we're going to give you £50, we're going to give you pizza after. No, it's actually about students making sure they're engaged. So actually, I love the numbers in terms of getting quorum and highest election turnout year on year, but we need to get students engaged. If we have more people voting, they're more inclined to come to the general meetings and vote again. They're more likely to be their friends to a general meeting, not just because there's pizza or food, but because they want to hold them accountable. They want to know, what is my SAB doing, who I voted for in March, every single time there's a general meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Could just remind everybody that questions have closed for this position, so please don't give us any more, or we'll be here all night. And the curry will go cold. Richard, could you give us your answer, please?
I think there's really two things. One, I know that the Constitution hasn't really been properly ratified yet, and it's still it has been now, but was going through quite a lot of changes very quickly and it was taking quite a while to actually get people together, which I think this is wrong. It should have been done there and then. People need to be on board, and the Union Secretary-Treasurer should have snapped his whip and said, yes, let's do it. But also, I think he hasn't shown his face to the freshers as much as what people thought that he would have done. I've been speaking to freshers because obviously I am one, and they don't know who the Union Secretary Treasurer is. They don't even know where the union is. So this is something that really needs to change. Thank you, guys.
And Usman, please.
Hi guys, I think the number one thing that I think the Union Secretary Treasurer should be doing is training. We need to train our council members so that they know what their powers are, so they can actually do their job properly. We need to train the sabbatical team about how to engage with the students, how to go out there and show their face. I think the biggest problem was that many of the students don't actually know what the Students' Union does or where it is or who represents it. So we need to train the team and how to work together, how to share their resources. We need to train societies how to engage the students, be here on Freshers, how to utilise the resources we've got, like the newspaper, like UBTV, like Ramair, because unfortunately a lot of the students that are elected don't know how to do their job, and ultimately that is down to the Union Secretary Treasurer to provide that training so that we can be effective as a union and we can make a lot of progress. So please vote for me, and that's going to be one of my biggest campaigns I'm going to work on. Vote Usman Ahmed, number 1 for UST. Thank you.
Okay, you're listening to Hustings 2013 live in Student Central on Ramair via UBTV. The next question for the candidates is, what role do you think the union has in the wider corporate services of the university? And Richard, you're up for that one firstly, please.
Well, with a massive role in the corporate services, I think the Union Secretary Treasurer is near enough on the front. As we said, he does hold the budget to the union, and he is part of the Students' Union. He should be the first person out there asking why is something going wrong over in the university atrium? Why are the prices too high? He's the person who should be there talking about it. He should be the person getting people riled up and talking about it. I think that the Union Secretary Treasurer should really change the fact that prices are a little bit high. If we are paying £9,000 a year, well, this is the freshers anyway. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
I think this question is looking at how the Union Secretary Treasurer works on getting deals from businesses, works on providing deals in the shops and the other commercial areas that we have. I think firstly we need to look at what commercial areas are failing and why are they failing. I think ultimately it comes down to listening to the students. What do they want in the shop? If things are not selling, then why are we selling them? Because we're not making money. We need to be making money in the commercial areas. Look at the media areas. What's not working? Again, working with the media and societies officer, media and entertainment officer, sorry, I've mixed two jobs, to make sure that the things that are failing, we need to look at why are they failing and how we can develop them. And thirdly, I think we need to diversify. There's a lot of students that are not approached. They don't know, what services we have. We need to look at them. International students, a lot of the Muslim students in entertainment areas, postgraduate students, look at what do they actually need and how can we provide that service to increase our profits, to increase the money that we're taking so that we can be a much more effective union with a bigger budget.
That's 1 minute. And Sam, please.
In regards to corporate services, I mean, we're sitting in front of the shop. We have the bars downstairs. When you go into atrium, there's food everywhere. Now, the customers to all these corporate services are students and obviously like a bit of staff, but in this building, it's students. Why, like has been said, why is X being sold if it's not? Now, a couple of weeks ago, I sat in a focus group with John Archibald and Mike Wakefield, and I asked them, what more can we do? I've also, there was a recent survey done by the UBU a couple of weeks ago, and actually we found out that the way people engage with this building and the union the most is actually through societies. Nearly 35% of students randomly sampled are in a society. So I'll be looking to actually work with the next sports and society officer and say, why can't we get the society sponsored? Because if we start doing that, just like all the sports are, but we have 105 societies, if we start getting them sponsored, the other sponsors will start saying, actually, we can get more, why don't we put money into the union as a general to get to the students?
Okay.
Thank you.
The next question. Why is the UST role so important to students? Usman, could you tackle that one firstly, please?
I think essentially the Union Secretary Treasurer manages the union. I see him as sort of like managing the sabbatical officers. So it's a key role to ensure that the team that are being paid with your money is doing an effective job. Secondly, I think there needs to be increased communication between the union and the students, and the union secretary-treasurer is a key role in making this happen. He's like a manager, he runs the constitution, he runs finance committee to ensure that financial decisions are being made with your opinions taken into account. He runs democracy campaigns like the elections now. He should be managing them to ensure that students are engaging. So ultimately, I need to work with all the sabbatical team to ensure you have the best experience at this university and this union. So when you leave, you'll be wishing to come back as postgraduate students and master students and bring us more money and carry on enjoying your experience here. So that's what I think the Union Secretary-Treasurer needs to do. Thank you.
And Sam, please.
The Union Secretary-Treasurer is important to the students, firstly and foremost, because you vote for him. X thousand students may vote for the next union secretary. That's the first point. But the next point is, by definition, the secretary is in charge of administering the union, which is a union of students. So they should be your first point of call, maybe after your academic rep, but they should be your first point of call when you come to the union. So you should know who your SABs are. That's one of the main reasons why they're important to students, and they're important for students, because the UST, whilst they're based in the union, they're the most likely person to also go over to Richmond building for a meeting with the university staff. That's why they're important to students and for students.
And Richard, please.
Well, I think the Union Secretary-Treasurer is important to students, literally because he's supposed to run this union with the help of the sabbatical officers. So he's the one who's basically giving them the budgets. He's the one telling them basically how to spend a little bit here and there. And he's also the one who talks to the university. He's the one who's got direct involvement with the university for us. And as students of this university and the union, then together the Union Secretary-Treasurer is very important in that sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Could we ask everyone who is in Student Central just to keep the volume down, please, so we can hear what all the candidates are saying? Thank you. Do you think this year's election regulations have been too harsh, and why? Strictly 1 minute, on one leg. No, only kidding. Do you think this year's elections regulations have been too harsh, and why? Sam, could you start with that one, please?
Too harsh? I'm not sure. I mean, there's no excuse to cheat. So if the rules are there, why would they be harsh unless you're planning on breaking them?
Richard, please.
The rules are there for a reason. People need to have rules and regulations just to make sure that people aren't going to do dodgy things behind backs. It's not fair. Rules are there in place, and yeah, people might think they're harsh, but I think they're fair. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
As part of elections committee last year, we introduced a lot of the regulations that are currently running. The reason why they were introduced is every 5 seconds we had students coming up to us complaining about the way students were campaigning, so we had to do something to protect the students, to ensure students walking to the library weren't being harassed. So every time we received a complaint, we had to look at the regulations to make sure they were preventing any damaging behaviour, any negative campaigning. So that's the only reason they're harsh, is because the campaigners themselves are causing all these problems. But also they try and make a level playing field this year for all the candidates, new people who are new in the university, who have new campaign teams. We're trying to make a fair playing field so they can engage in the elections and have a really good experience. So that's why.
You're listening to Hustings 2013 in Student Central, Obama and UBTV. The next question for the candidates for Union Secretary-Treasurer. This year the SABs seem to have gotten away with anything. As the UST, what do you have planned to curb this culture? Richard, could you start with that one, please?
Well, I have heard these rumours going around the university and union, but if the sabbatical officers seem to be getting away with things, that's not right. As soon as someone comes up to me with a rumour saying that sabbatical officers aren't being accountable for what they're supposed to do, that's something that needs to be addressed. If the person who says this rumour is wrong, then granted, and I will go out my way to explain why the sabbatical officer has done his job, his or her job. For me, possibly next year there should be tighter rules with the sabbatical officers, and as Union Secretary-Treasurer I'd like to sit down with each sabbatical officer and go through their roles and regulations with them, as I'd want the academic affairs officer to do to me. Thank you.
Usman, please.
I think the sabbatical officers have got away with a lot because they treat it like work experience. They don't see it as a professional job, and the Union Secretary-Treasurer needs to enforce the rules in the Constitution. It is an employment, it is a job, so there's rules there in terms of dismissal if they're not meeting their targets, if they're not attending. Furthermore, we need to engage the students because it's you guys that are supposed to be holding them to account as well. So the communication tool I want to introduce, you'll be able to see the sabbatical reports, you'll be able to see their working hours to see if they're actually coming into the union, you'll be able to ask a question even if they haven't turned up. So that will be a way that will increase student engagement but also allow you guys to hold them to account. Thirdly, general meeting. This is where you can turn up and ask the sabbatical officers directly what have they been doing. And this year, many students have turned up to general meetings. I've been one of them asking the sabbatical officers, where is that £13,500 going that they're earning? What are they doing? So we need to do more of this as well.
And Sam, please.
One of the main things I'm running for is accountability and accessibility. That does include timesheets and monthly reports. In my opinion, there's absolutely no excuse for your timesheet not being filled out. There's absolutely no excuse for your report not given to council. So in that regard, I'd be working closely with whoever the chair of council is to work closely with them to make sure that if you do ask for a council report, it's there. Firstly, that the SADs are even turning up to council. This year, not everyone has turned up to every council. But when you're asked, or no, when you're demanded for your timesheets and your monthly reports, that they're there. Another thing is accessibility. Like I said, I work in the union, and if I'm not seeing more than 2 or 3 SABs at a time, I have no idea how the students are planning on. So through printing off their meeting maker as the UST, I'd know where they're supposed to be. And if someone comes in with an issue to speak to this particular SAB, I can confidently say they're in a meeting doing X, Y, Z, rather than saying they're not here, I don't know where they are.
Okay, the next question is, are you going to show how you are spending the budget of Societies Federation, Athletics Union and annual general meetings and other meetings? And that's Usman, if you could tackle that one firstly, please.
I think first of all, it's a bit of a misdirected question, to be honest. It's part of the Sports Society's officer's job to manage AU and SF, so it would be up to them. But I think if we're looking at more accountability, if we're looking at more transparency in the union, so then why not? We need to show you guys where we are spending the money, because a lot of the time students complain that they don't know what's going on. There's been no activity, so I don't see the Sports Society's officer having a problem with it, to be honest. And then you can quiz them about it. Yes, you should print them. Stop not. Yeah, we will be printing them, I'll say. I think we should print them. Same as the finances of the union. They are available. You should be able to have a look at them to see where we're spending the money, because it's your money at the end of the day. And if we're not doing anything wrong, if we are using it effectively, what have we got to hide? It should be nothing, really. Thank you.
And Sam, please.
In regards to AESF, I'm currently a Societies Federation Secretary, so I know how these budgets work. And actually, I don't think that that should be left down to just the Sports and Science Officer. The Union Secretary and the Sports and Science Officer work over the summer to say, where's the money needed? The subvention comes from the university, roughly about 40,000 to sports, 10,000 to societies. One of the things as SF Secretary this year is I'm trying to make sure societies get their forms in before summer, so that whoever the UST is, from the 1st of July, they can say, we have X numbers of societies, this is how much they're going to need. Sports-wise, they'll also need to try and put their budgets in as quickly as possible. And actually, that would work. The Sports and Science Officer and the Union Secretary-Treasurer to work together closely for the benefit of those numbers added together. More than half of the students are involved in sports and societies. So it's clearly one of the highest forms of engagement this union has and should be taken very seriously.
And Richard, please.
I think the budget should be completely shown near enough everywhere. The budget should be shown in each one of the meetings because everyone needs to know where the money's going. I have no clue where this money's going in this university, but I want to make sure I know next year where it's going and what it's going to be spent on, because at the end of the day, it's your money. It's these £9,000 that are coming to you, and it's these sabbatical officers who are getting paid $13,500 to go do and spend the money in a certain way. I also think that maybe we should move it onto the internet. This might be bad for some people, but if you did it onto the university website and had a login, a specific login to get into the budgets that people can easily access at any time, then we can update the budgets every month. Thank you.
Welcome to Hustings 2013. The best thing you can do on a Wednesday evening if you're dressed as Where's Wally, Spider-Man or a cow. Welcome to the audience. Right, let's continue with the next question. As Union Secretary-Treasurer, you are automatically the Chair of Elections Committee. How will you try to engage students in next year's elections? And Sam, you're up first for that one, please.
Well, having read most of the Constitution, that's it's technically true, but realistically it's also not, because if the current UST is going to run for election, then they naturally can't be on the elections committee. However, from the start of the year, we can look at how these elections have gone, review them in council with the lay members, the chair of council, and together can decide how can we go forward as a union. Because if the UST is running again, how are you going to look at it if he's not there? So therefore, you have to be more proactive and say, if I know I'm going to run, I have X years plan, why don't I look at it from the start of the year to help all of the students and work with those people who are going to be on elections committee, which is made up of 7 people, something like that.
And Richard, please.
Well, one of the main things I was thinking of is participation. I want to increase participation in this university, and elections are probably one of the first points of calls. Election comes round in the first semester, so why can't we have the elections committee coming round, talking to freshers especially, because we want to get them more involved. I'm one of the only freshers who are running for elections, apart from Liam, who seems to have gone in Guillermo. So let's get these people more involved. As you are chair of the elections committee, then we need to push this towards freshers, towards people who are interested but have never actually got the chance to stand up and speak up for themselves. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
As a member of elections committee last year, I realised how important it is to get the word out there. As the union secretary treasurer, it's his job or her job to ensure that everybody's aware of the election. So number one, what I would do when freshers come in, during the freshers talk, highlight the importance of elections and highlight the importance of democracy. Secondly, we need to utilise the resources that we have. So the media areas, using UBTV, we can create adverts that can be played in lectures. We can write articles in the newspaper. We can get the sabbatical team into Rameh to say what do they do with the jobs. And if first years are interested, or anybody's interested but they're not too sure, they can come and I'd be happy to let them shadow me for a day, for a week, to see what the experience is like, so they can actually, you know, see if they really want to do the job. And I'd work as part of elections committee earlier on to ensure we have more marketing, to have more media, and to ensure that the elections committee actually know the constitution effectively so they can implement it when elections actually start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Right, those were the answers to the questions so far. You're listening to the questions to the candidates for Union Secretary Treasurer. The next such one is, with such a huge responsibility, financial and general interests, how do you plan to manage your time? And Richard, you're up first for that one.
I manage my time pretty well at the moment, even though I am, as I said before, I am only a fresher, but I seem to manage my time pretty well. I can go out on a Wednesday, Friday, Saturday night and have a good laugh while still managing to get my deadlines hit. To be part of the UST, I think to manage my time, I have 3 diaries, I know exactly where I'll be and what I'll be, and I think it's my time management's perfect already, but I reckon it can be improved with this job. At the end of the day, my time here at 9 to 5 at the office is not just what I'll spend here. I'll take my job home, I'll work at my job, I'll make sure things are finished before I actually leave the office. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
I think there needs to be tougher regulation in the contracts that sabbatical officers sign to ensure that actually turning up 9 to 5 every day in the office or actually doing some work. Time management wise, I'm a final year student, so this will be my last year at the university, so I want to put my experience to use, so I won't have anything else to do really. So I think I'll have plenty of time to be effective in the job. Thirdly, I just live up the road literally, so a lot of the times I'll have plenty of time to spend in the union and carry on with my work. As part of union council, I have worked effectively and managed my time coming to the meetings, but I've also been a member of society, so I've had a lot of demands on my time, but I've worked really effectively and also managed my academic work as well, so I think I'll be fine, inshallah.
And Sam, please.
Well, currently by regulation, full-time sabbatical officers are required to do a minimum of 38.5 hours, and there's also a thing called Meeting Maker where you put in your meetings. It's so simple that in terms of time management, you should know where you are. You don't need 3 diaries. You can do it with 1, the Meeting Maker. So when you're in your role, you know exactly what you're doing at any time. And whilst the role may be a 9 to 5, I believe that students have problems after 5. So I'll make sure that I'm available to students, as long as it's feasibly possible, because the desk usually closes at 8 o'clock, so there should be some sabbatical representation, especially maybe on rotation, but students should have access to their SABs at any time, especially during the week.
Okay, you're listening to Hustings 2013. Don't worry, we are nearly through. Stay around, because there's curry later. With such a huge responsibility... Oh, I've read that one. Oh, dear. Are you aware of motions banning Starbucks from campus? What will you do to ensure motions are upheld? Usman, you're first for that one.
Hi guys. Currently, I don't think I'm aware of any motions that are banning Starbucks on campus. I think there is a motion that was brought forward in terms of Palestine and the link Starbucks has with the occupation. But I don't think there is anything, to be honest. We need to look at, if there are issues to do with ethics, then we need to look at them, and we need to introduce companies who are ethical in their trade and their work around the world, because that's what we want to be as human beings. We want to go out and be ethical. But I'm not aware of anything to do with Starbucks. There are other certain products, and there might be motions coming in about different products like Nestle and the work that they do around the world and how it affects their workers. There might be issues to do with Coca-Cola, but I think we need to bring them to council where they can be debated, where the students can think about the ethics, and we need to ask you guys how you feel. If you want to buy their products, it's your money at the end of the day, but we need to push the ethics value of the corporations that work in the union, but I'm not aware of anything at the moment. Thank you.
And Sam, please.
In regards to motions, currently there is a bureaucratic blood clot in the union. There are so many motions that are out of date. Now, as UST, you're also chair of the Democracy Committee. I'll ensure that their meetings throughout the year, those members are drawn from council. I'll make sure the meetings throughout the year to look at all of the motions, not just if there isn't a Starbucks on, because I don't know. There's so many there, I haven't even bothered to look. We'll make sure we know what's going on with each and every motion. If they're out of date, they'll go. If not, they'll go back to council where they were brought up. And if needed, we bring them to general meeting for all the students to decide.
And Richard, please.
A motion against Starbucks from not being, obviously I've never heard of anything like that, but I think definitely if a motion's out of date, if a motion's not there, if a motion's not really meant to be, is not up for the students at this moment in time, then the motion should go. If there is a different motion that's needed, then the motion can be ratified in council and it can be changed, it can be moved on, it can be modernised. So I think generally that motion, I still don't know, but to enforce motions, I'd possibly go through the council and go through general meetings, explaining to every student as much as I can that these motions are in place. Thank you.
Okay, the next question to the candidates of Union Secretary Treasurer is, what do you know about Starboard? Sam, you're up first for that one.
To the best of my knowledge, Starboard is one of the statutory bodies of the university that help with making decisions. The UST automatically sits on there, and they're there to help represent the voice of as many students as possible. That's, to the best of my knowledge, what it is.
And Richard, please.
Oh, unfortunately, I don't really know much about Starboard, and I will be the first to admit that. The thing is, if I was going to be UST, though, I would make sure that I understand everything that goes on with Starboard. I make sure understand that everything goes on in the university, and I'll make sure I know this down to a T. Thank you.
And Usman, please.
Hi guys. I think Starboard is the committee that the Union Secretary Treasurer works on, and they look at some of the issues to do with products and to do with finances and the commercial areas within the union. So stuff like street that's been introduced in Atrium. There we go. Thank you. Atrium. Went through Starboard. It was brought to council to look at as well, but they look at how can we revamp the commercial areas that we already have, especially to do with food, especially to do with drinks. So that's what Starboard is. Thank you.
If anybody is interested in a fact, apparently it stands for Strategic Trading and Resources. I thought it was sports, something in retail, but that's how much I know. On to the next one for Union Secretary Treasurer. Of course, if you can fill in the T with a good answer. Answers on a postcard. Next question. Do you think there is still a need for a Union Secretary Treasurer given this... I wish I could read these beforehand. Do you think there is a role for a Union Secretary Treasurer given the current financial collaboration between the Union and University? We'll get there eventually. Do you think there is still a need for a Union Secretary Treasurer given the current financial collaboration between the Union and University? Richard, you're up for that one, please.
Well, of course, I still think that there needs to be someone who, from the union, is collaborating with the university. There needs to be that one person who can go to the university financial meetings, and the one person who can be that crossover. And the union secretary treasurer does that at the moment. Granted, maybe we could employ a financial position or an accountant to do so, but that would be taking away the opportunity for a student to do so. A student with such skills that just wants to develop their skills. So why take it away from them if we're having that one person as the union secretary treasurer? Thank you.
And Usman, please.
I believe we definitely need to have a union secretary treasurer because they don't only work on finances, they work on democracy, they work on student engagement, they work on managing sabbatical teams, so who would do that job? In terms of working with the university, of course we need to work with the university. The university provides us with a lot of the funding, with the subvention that we use in the union, but there's a few issues that I have with the way the university works. This year, I became aware that the union started paying rent to the university, and it's really, really high. I think the subvention is £610,000, and the rent is like 500 something thousand pounds, but it's added on to make the university increase in rankings. But I think we need to work with the university, but we need to look at students' opinions and demand more from the university. We can't just accept everything the university gives us. We can't just stand down and say, fair enough, guys, you've got the money, so we're not going to argue with you. I think the union secretary treasurer needs to be strong voice for the students and challenge the university.
Thank you. That's 1 minute. And Sam, please.
I believe there's a very important need for a UST. The current structure of this union is quite unique to Bradford. It's a flat structure, so there isn't actually a president. But the UST does a lot more than just the treasury role in terms of the finance with the university. But on that specific note, students should have a voice in those meetings. Students are paying, well, some are still paying £3,000, but from next year, actually, the majority of students would have been paying £7,000 to £9,000 to attend this university. They should have a voice. So when they vote for someone to come to sit in their union, that person they vote for should have a strong enough voice to go across to the university, and that role shouldn't be taken away from students if it directly and is the direct consequence of students.
You'll be glad to know we've reached the penultimate question, which is, how do you feel about our university having a higher student participation in elections than other universities such as Leeds, as we had around 53% last year? Usman, it's time for you to step up for that one.
Thank you very much. I think it's a huge commitment by the campaign teams and the students standing in the elections themselves. They are the reason why we have this turnout. I think the union needs to do a lot more. It can't take the credit for this. It needs to do a lot more to increase student turnout. I think we need to congratulate ourselves the fact that Leeds University is such a big university and still we have a high percentage of turnout. But I think it comes down to a lot of students still don't know what the elections are. We need to make more awareness about this. We need to introduce them to the candidates earlier so they can talk to the candidates and know what they're voting for, rather than just seeing them on voting days and looking at a person and thinking, I like you, so I'll vote for you. But they can do that if they want. But I think it comes down to the campaign teams being really effective and working hard, and members of the union, like the finance officer, special shout out, who works really hard on the election, so well done.
If you think Tracy's giving you more curry for that, then no. Sam, up next, please.
On that note, I mean, congratulations to all of you for coming to Hustings. Like, that's where I would start. But the main thing is, how can we get more people engaged? There's no point having X number voting if they're only voting. That means the engagement is only, what, 3 days in the whole year? No. There should be hundreds of people. I have a vision that hopefully one day we can have a Horton Barn Hustings. If we're going to have 4,000 people voting, why have we only got 70 to 80, if that, here at Hustings? Engagement is about consistency, not just 3 days in March getting them to vote. We should be getting packed out general meetings. We should be getting packed out Hustings. And actually, every couple of hours, there should be someone, like students should be able to come to the desk and say, what are you doing? What have you done in the last week, the last month? When's the next general meeting? What's going on in council? So whilst, yes, we should congratulate ourselves for where we've got to now, there's so much more to do in terms of getting consistent levels of participation and engagement.
And Richard, please.
Well, I think the fact that we are with 53% in the voting is a great advocate for what this student body can actually do. If we can dwell on this and actually pull this into the rest of the year, this can mean that 53% of students can participate in every event. Then we can increase that. We can look towards targeting to make it 70%, to make it 80%, to try and get as many people down as we can. If you're doing it for elections, why aren't we doing it for everything else? It's great that you're all down here, but we can do more. And I hope that the Union Secretary Treasurer next year really pries on that and uses the campaign team, uses the election committee, and really pushes it. Thank you.
Thank you. You're listening to Hustings 2013. It's time for the final question, and you already know what's coming. It's what Disney character do you most associate yourself with? And the person who'll be answering that first is Sam. I think we've already been there, but we'll get another answer, I think.
Yeah, seeing as you caught me out with the Marvel Avengers one. In terms of a genie character, I mean, in terms of, I've given it away, a Disney character, I'd be the genie, because if you vote for me, there'll be magic coming out of the Union.
Ooh, nice. Tracy's just said a dodgy joke. I'm not repeating it. Richard, please, what is your Disney character of choice?
I think my Disney character would definitely have to be a childhood hero of mine, and that's Buzz Lightyear. Because he taught me that the stars are just the beginning.
Oh, we've had a cheesy double act. Can Usman keep the cheese with his Disney character?
I have no cheese, I'm so sorry guys. But I think it'll have to be Aladdin because it's the only brown Disney character.
Okay, so there were the questions and answers from the candidates for the Union Secretary Treasurer. Let's just get the summation speech out of the way. Obviously, that's 1 minute for each candidate. Sam, you're up first. Your 1 minute, summation speech for the Union Secretary Treasurer starts now.
Can everyone hear me? Thank you. Good. Firstly, thank you all for sitting here. You've sat here for, 3 and a bit hours. You've heard quite a lot, so I'm just going to make it brief. You should vote for me because I'm planning to get more students engaged with this union so that next time there's a lot more people at Hustings asking more questions. A few of the things I'm planning to do, make sure that people know who the SABs are, they know where the union is, and I'm the person to deliver that. I'm the best candidate with the most experience of working in this union for students, and that's why I should vote number 1 for Sam Majunga for UST.
That was the closing speech for candidate Sam Majunga for Union Secretary Treasurer. The next person to speak is candidate Usman Ahmed, also standing for UST. And your 1 minute summation speech starts now.
Hi guys, to just finalise, I just want to highlight what I wish to do. We need increased effective working of the sabbatical team. We need transparency in the finances, and we need you guys to be able to hold the sabbatical team to account. How am I going to do this? I'm going to introduce a Blackboard-based communication tool where all the reports will be on the timesheets. You'll have access to every single document, and you'll be able to ask them, why haven't you been in the union? What have you done while you've been here? And finally, guys, vote Usman Ahmed, number 1 for UST. Vote for honesty, integrity, and experience. Vote for a union that represents you. Thank you very much.
Closing speech for Usman Ahmed, standing for Union Secretary Treasurer. The next candidate to speak is Richard Cullen, also standing. Your closing speech starts now.
Hi guys, so you've heard what I've had to say today anyway, but I still think you should vote for me. My main aims are increase the participation in the university. That's one of the best things about this university. There's so many students and we can pull on every one of them. Each one of your votes, each one of your voices should be heard in this university, and you're the ones who can make the difference, not me. You put me in a position to help you, and that's what I want to do. I also want to make sure the sabbatical officers are there for you. I think, guys, you should vote Richard Cullen for UST. Enrich your vote, enrich your union.
That was the closing speech there for candidate Richard Cullen, standing for the Union Secretary Treasurer. You've heard opening, closing speeches and questions and answers to all the candidates standing. Union Secretary Treasurer, that was Richard Cullen, Usman Ahmed, Sam Majunga and Ron. Reopen nominations. You can vote for that position, as you can all, at ubuonline.co.uk/elections from midnight on the morning of Tuesday the 12th to 11 p.m. on Thursday the 14th. On that website you can also see all the manifestos, all the candidates and of course all the hustings, both in audio and video form. We'll be back tomorrow with the final part of hustings. We'll be seeing the candidates for LGBT officer, chair of council, environment and welfare council and academic affairs officer. Please make sure you clean your rubbish, collect an FND ticket if you haven't already, and help yourself to a curry. over in the exhibition space. Thank you to all the candidates and all the people for turning up to hustings today. Thank you to UBTV and to Rame and to the elections committee for coming down and making this night's hustings possible. We'll be back tomorrow with more hustings. Make sure you spread the word about the elections. Thank you for coming along this evening. We'll be back tomorrow from 6 o'clock live on Rame in Student Central and of course streamed via UBTV. Thank you and good night.